I think it's been great to see how people of faith and activists come together and understanding that those worlds can come together, and that we're actually responsible to take ownership in our own communities and neighborhoods and not wait for others to come save us. That's the hope, and we hope that some of those sparks will go into the streets and neighborhoods from here.
I got a sense of urgency because the work is big and the workers are few.
Oh, it was so informative. It was insightful. I've learned a lot. I live in Mamelodi, and I wish I can take the information that I was given here back to Mamelodi. It is as it is back to Mamelodi. I see that people are really trying to make a difference. So it gives me hope that people are trying to make a difference. We have people from different parts of Africa here, different parts of South Africa. And what I see is that we are so united because we want to see a change in our continent. We want to see a change in our communities. So what I like about the people who are here is they are starting from the grassroots. Yeah, that's what I like. I want to take that with me.
Yeah, it was the workshops that I attended were about activism and how to get started, where to start, where to put your passions. And I found it very exciting to learn something that I never thought I would be able to be a part of, but realizing that I'm already a part of it. So that was amazing.
The key takers for this past 3 days is that you don't need a lot to make change. Change comes within you. As a person, all these stakeholders or everyone that is here, they come with different things, and I learn from each and every one of them. But it gives me hope. There is hope for the city. At times you feel like what you are doing, it's kind of pointless, but the gatherings like this, and you share the experience, you hear the experience of other people that in their communities or in their province it was more difficult. Like for example, Durban, they face the floods, people are dying, people are being killed. People are doing the same job that I'm doing as activists. They are being killed to do the good job. They're not doing anything wrong, but they are being killed just to do the right thing and to help the vulnerable and the poor. So for me, that they still have hope. So it gives me hope also that there's more in me that I can give it to the community.
Yeah, the past 3 days for me have been quite both challenging me where I am currently, but at the same time spurring me to move on with the work that I'm doing in this city of Tshwane.
Really wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and the information that one has gathered is amazing.
For me personally, I like this experience here. It's exchanging ideas about even matter. It is what we need in this Africa to make this Africa better than it were. Yeah.
The theme of the conference was Changemakers in the city, and for me, just the bottom line of our country is that we need change, and then change not only in the political space, but change at a local level. And I think the discussion here or this consultation was facilitating that to make us aware that people, really ordinary people like us on the ground, we want change. And then that change, it must be visible, it must be tangible, it must be measurable. And then the city is a good place to measure it, to see it. When we say the city, we mean even the townships. So for me, one of the highlights was also to hear from other countries, like people from Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, and other parts of the cities in the continent, the issues that they're wrestling with. And it is important, of course, that these issues must be brutally addressed, brutally acknowledged. Otherwise, we won't be able to to celebrate when these things, we see them. We need to know what we're imagining so that when we see them happening, we'll know that this is what we're looking for, this is what we're expecting.
The short that we have done so far opens eyes, and there is so much scope and so much we need to do to take this through the drift, because we're in the drift now. We need to come up, and South Africa need to stand up. And the lessons we've learned here is it was very competent, it's very good, and it can only go better if we are allowed to progress in what we're aiming to achieve in South Africa. And what we want to achieve in South Africa is to get accommodation for people and housing and all those things. That's the things that helps anybody in any life. So I'm yes for that all the way.
Yeah, one of the key takeaways from the consultation so far is just the opportunity to really come back together and rekindle friendships. And I think the Holy Spirit works by knitting our hearts together in deep bonds of love, of trust, of unity. And so the consultation, it's similar to, if you've ever been on a game drive, you see that the animals are going to a watering hole because we're all thirsty. And I feel like that's what the consultation is. It's like a watering hole. We're all thirsty, and we really want to come together to be replenished because the journey in our cities is not always easy.
It seems like the church isn't thinking through urban justice, but it turns out we are, right? There are people within the church thinking through what God's heart is for cities. And I think that's what's coming up here to the past few days, to say, how do we carry and, I guess, bring God's heart to cities by challenging powers that exclude and what Stefan de Beer calls death-dealing environments. How do we bring life to those? And I think what has been encouraging for me is to see that people that are Jesus-loving and are Christians like me are also like me, thinking through what does an inclusive and just city look like. And I think that has been my highlights over the past few days.
So it has really been a great and a space of learning, both with encouragement from practitioners, but also from theologians in general. I think what has really been good about this space has been around doing theology from the communities and allowing the communities to inform theologies and the work that happens in those various spaces. So really I would encourage people to come to this space to be formed and reformed. Thank you.
I think one of the things that was outstanding this morning was the devotion. I think it was really key because a lot of us, especially as people who work in the front lines, we kind of get discouraged and we get lost and maybe feeling that we can give up. But I think the devotions this morning just reminding us again that we are jars of clay, but we have this treasure inside of us, that we are not, even though we are pressed on every side, we are not actually crushed. And I think that for me was one of the outstanding, and the plenary as well. The plenary this morning focusing a lot on how do we build with the future in mind. So having buildings that actually have the capacity for change, or how do we design with a view for change. And so I think for me, designing cities and building cities with a capacity for change, like just transformed the way I think, because we never think about what problems we might foresee in 10 years' time. And so if you cannot think about the problems you're going to have or challenges you're going to have, you cannot design solutions right now. And we need to have to be able to think about what we might face in the future so that we're actually prepared for it. So I think that was really one of the outstanding, and one of the workshops was really key on point on theological education in urban Africa. What do we teach in our churches, in our theological schools? How do we prepare our ministers? Was another one that really made us question the theology and how we theologize and how we prepare our ministers for this urban Africa. So I think for me, I'm like, we need to rethink, we need to relearn, we need to challenge our thinking so that we can actually do things better if we want to build a better Africa and better cities. And so we want to see the presence of theology in the city-making process.
I guess caring for the city, praying for the city, and making sure that God's justice is realized in the city.